So Dial of Destiny has recently dropped on digital at Disney Plus, and I decided to give it a second watch for this review. I did watch it the first time in the theater, and I had very mixed thoughts with this film. So with that out of the way, let's get down to this. Now, I'm a fan of the Indiana Jones series. I originally watched the original trilogy on VHS back in 2006, and then watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in theaters in 2008. And I'll tell you, that shit as a kid was a spectacle. I know Crystal Skull was deemed as the worst film in the franchise, but for me, I enjoyed it equally with the rest of the OG trilogy. Now, Dial of Destiny is a whole other beast. I mean, the production has been through so many issues. Allegedly, there was a rewrite for the ending after the script got possibly leaked onto the internet. And then a lot of people had been immediately criticizing the production since day one. So I tried not to look into the news of all these leaks and rumors that were being circulated before the film even released. Now let's get into the movie. The opening sequence is definitely the strongest point of the film. It comes close to home with Raiders and Last Crusade with the good old involvement of Nazis. We get to see young Indy, which is just a DH deepfake of Harrison Ford kicking Nazi ass again, and the introduction of the new villain Bowler, played by Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah, the guy who played the Bond villain from Casino Royale. Amazing dude. So the DH Indy is definitely something I can agree with some of the fans is it only looks good when Indy isn't doing any action, but when the scene involves him to do any major movement, it just looks terrible. Which kinda takes me out of the film. Now today's MacGuffin for this film is, drumroll please, is half of the Antikythera, which is basically a vessel to time travel, which only the other half is missing. I actually really do like the time travel concept for the franchise. I mean, how the hell can you top the UFO shit from Crystal Skull? Now, after this sequence, we time skip into 1969, which we see only in and this is where I think the film downfalls. I do like the whole concept of exploring the character in a world where it's beginning to revolutionize and the interest of archaeology is starting to become an old trend, showing that its era is almost over. But then with how the film is written and shot, I feel its execution just didn't work well for me. Alright, let's get into the characters, and we're going to start with Indy. Now, I'm not a huge fan with how the character is set up. Right after Crystal Skull having a really happy ending, Dial of Destiny showcases our character being a depressed old man who lost his spirit of adventure. Now, as someone who really hates the Star Wars sequel trilogy, I hate how Luke Skywalker had a similar treatment in The Last Jedi. Like, why the hell do iconic characters like these need to be broken down into old hags? Character development wise, it's nothing significant, but just trashing the character's legacy into the dumps. Sadly, Indy doesn't get to do much, even in the action scenes, which I'll get into later. Helena, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, takes the whole spotlight. Now, I gotta say that Dial of Destiny has gotta have the most unlikable companion characters in the franchise. Willie Scott doesn't even come near as insufferable as these characters. Yeah, she screams a lot, but she does have some redeeming moments, mostly rescuing Indy and Short Round from the death trap. Helena just nags some blood to Indy and at times isn't remorseful when one of his friends gets killed.
I have said it before, and I will say it again. When you're in a tight spot, dynamite.
My friend was just murdered.
So for short, she's not that great. Teddy, on the other hand, isn't really interesting either. He's basically a Short Round clone, but just him without saying,
Indy, I love you!
or
Okie dokie, Dr. Jones, hold on to your potatoes!
in fact, he does ride a plane even though he has zero experience riding one. I guess this is a Temple of Doom reference to Short Round riding a car, but it's pretty not really a memorable character. Next, you have the return of Sala, who to me is the only likable character in the film, but sadly, he's only there for a cameo. In the airport scene, Sala recounts missing all the adventures he had with Indy and requested to join them. But Indy rejects and aims to take the situation in his own hands. For Christ's sake, the film would have been more enjoyable if Sala did join for one more adventure. Now we get to Basil. Wait, not that Basil. Him, Helena's father. I'll admit that he's an alright side character. Not as a douchebag as Mac from Crystal Skull. Even his flashback about how his work has driven him mad was interesting. And that's all I have to say about him, I guess. Ronaldo, played by Antonio Banderas, is another scuff. I mean, it's cool that Antonio is in the film, but he gets killed after his cameo, which sucks. Voller and his goons have got to be the most underutilized villains in the franchise. Voller overall is generic and doesn't come close to being menacing in any capacity. Meanwhile, the goons just shoot random people and that's it. They never really square off with Indy. Now for the action scenes. Aside from the opening sequence, the rest isn't extravagant. For example, the tuk-tuk chase. It's really bland, almost like watching a senior citizen on high speed with a golf cart while on a police pursuit in the freeway. This scene in comparison to the jungle chase scene from Crystal Skull is a complete joke. And then you got the short gunfight from Archimedes' tomb, which is not that intriguing either. The problem is that there's no scene where Indy fistfights anyone, which is a film trope in the franchise. In fact, it's in every film. Now, understandably, Harrison Ford was 80 when this was being filmed. In fact, he injured his arm during filming, which feels like this film should have never been made at all if the actor is not capable of this type of stuff. Now, one of Waller's goons is a big thug, and keep this in mind, that every film in the franchise had Indy involved with a fistfight of a bigger guy, almost like Papa the Sailor vs. Pluto. Sadly, this never came to fruition because Teddy is the one who kills him off.
Oh man.
And I felt that it was a missed opportunity for Indy to kick his ass, and that's why the action sequences were not that great in this film. The final film trope that I'm about to talk about, which for me is not commonly spoke of, is the horrific death scenes. This is an occurring trend that started all the way back in Raiders. Temple of Doom had a lot. Last Crusade had one. And the Crystal Skull had one. But Dial of Destiny doesn't even have one. Yes, there are instances of people dying, but it isn't even horrific at all. Even Voller's death is not even terrifying. Just a generic plane crash. And this is where I declare that the filmmakers played it safe. There's nothing really crazy violent in this film. Like, it's watchable, but it's not as bombastic as the previous films. In conclusion, this film barely improved from my second viewing, and I rated 2 jacks. Although, I recommend you watch Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. It's one hell of a summer blockbuster. And that film beats Dial of Destiny straight up. Like, that shit is a fucking action film, I tell ya. Alright, this is Trader Ball Jack signing out. Take care of yourselves, like and subscribe. Have a good one.